The trail is a metaphor for change. Although hiking, and specifically endurance hiking, is now a big part of my day-to-day, it's not just about exercise. It's about transformation. Each step is a movement towards clarity, purpose, and identity. But movement is one thing, sharing insights gained is another. As a U.S. Marine veteran, I created this space to help other veterans gain clarity, purpose, and identity. Let's walk this path together. This is Trail to Transformation.
Most people aren't broken, they're just dysregulated. Chronic stress, pain, anxiety, and burnout aren't mindset failures. They're nervous systems stuck in survival. I'm Leland Holgate, combat veteran and neuroscientist, and I created the Welcome Home method to help people rewire their nervous systems with breath. And to go deeper, visit thewillfulwarrior.com.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. Of course, you know me, Dr. Keith McNally. I'm here with a good friend, Michelle Ann Collins. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Keith. Happy to be here.
So, this is still our first season. I'm very excited about all the things that we're doing. And without me screwing this up, because I've done it before, Michelle, please share just a little bit about who you are and what you're going to bring to the table today.
Okay, thank you. I love these wide open questions. I could go anywhere. Who I am. I'm a dog and a cat mom, so that tells you a lot about me already, right? Kind of give me anything furry and I'll talk weird to it, and I'm happy. But it took me a long time to get to this sort of happy, grounded place that I'm at right now. I was married to a retired Navy SEAL for a couple of years, second marriage. And at the end of our marriage, well, what ended our marriage was he died by suicide. And so, just a quick moment for my late husband, Glenn Collins, and thank him for his service and the ultimate sacrifice of losing his life for our country. And when he died, it was life shattering to me, as kind of that would be expected in a situation like that. I shifted everything in my world. I went through trauma, I went through grief. I learned a lot about trauma and how it manifests in the body. I went through a whole bunch of different certifications and wrote several books, as you can, about suicide loss and suicide loss survival. I speak, I write, I support people by doing grief coaching, and I work with corporations to integrate mindfulness into their daily lives to lower stress and to make wiser decisions. When you're mindful, you make wiser decisions. And this is, it's been 10 years that this new life of mine started. And it's been a long and hard journey. I have worked really, really hard to get where I am. But at the same time, it makes me understand that anyone, no matter what they've been through, can get to a place of joy, which is why I named my company Inhabit Joy, because joy is an inside job. Our birthright is joy and happiness and connection and peace, and life gets in the way of that. So it's a matter of just reconnecting with who you are inside to get here. And then I met you on LinkedIn in the suicide loss and suicide prevention space. And we've been working together for, I don't know how many years, but it's good work. And I am so inspired by your work and the Trail to Transformation.
Well, I do appreciate that. And I love everything that you said. When I have conversations with people, of course, it's always the flip side of the coin, as I always say, because I'm the one who has attempted multiple, you know, taking my life away. And the conversations that I have are those who have been impacted by such an event. So the survivors and all the ripple effects that, go into that experience. And you mentioned trauma and everything that trauma really is. It's not just something that it's an experience. It really does sit with the body. Um, but as somebody who has, you know, attempted to take his own life, I still deal with the trauma that has caused me to face these things. And my first question is, what exactly is trauma and how do we deal with that? Because we both deal with it, and you still deal with it, and I still deal with it.
I do.
So for for our audience sake, can we kind of dive into the whole aspect of what is trauma?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think, not I think, trauma is when your nervous system gets overwhelmed by an event. It could be multiple events. Now we have terminology like complex trauma, post traumatic stress disorder, and these are all different ways of saying your nervous system is on high alert and responding inappropriately to situations that are not worthy of high alert. So, but for example, how we developed this trauma response was actually a time to, when we were out in nature and whenever our nervous system was heightened, it was because we were being chased by a bear, or we didn't know where our next meal was because we hadn't killed something for our dinner. It was really like black and white. Our trauma response is initiated so that we can continue to live. And thank goodness for that. It's amazing to have that kind of um, creation, or that kind of way of being. But in our modern society, most of us are fortunate enough to know where our next meal is coming from. Most of us are fortunate enough to not be being chased by a bear all the time. The problem is we have so much going on in our world that stimulates our nervous system into a trauma response, even though our mind can tell us, oh no, we're fine. I'm just watching a movie, right? For example, um, movies can initiate the trauma response if our nervous system clicks into the fight or flight response. So that's my answer for the what is trauma.
Right, right.
How to manage it is, in my world, a constant reminding of I am safe. Now, that sounds really easy. I'm safe. But again,
Well, it's not real easy because,
no, you can
especially for
say
somebody,
it.
yeah, who is diagnosed with PTSD,
Mhm.
lots of things can easily trigger. Like I avoid, and this is going to sound, I kind of live as a hermit. I avoid going outside a lot. Probably not good for me. But going to the mall or going shopping, even at Walmart, when during the holiday season, especially when it gets crowded, crowds
Mhm.
are not a good thing for me. Loud
Yeah.
noises are not a good thing for me. So I
Oh,
do,
yeah.
yeah. So
I'm
I,
exactly the same.
yeah,
I have learned to manage my PTSD, but it doesn't go away. Your nervous system learns how to malfunction
mm,
or be hypervigilant, which wasn't a malfunction like I was explaining when we were evolving. It was a life saving way to be, but our physical bodies don't evolve anywhere near as quickly as our society has evolved. We did not evolve to move at 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. So every time you're in a car, your nervous system is being hyperstimulated. And if you think about just that one thing, we didn't evolve to watch big explosions on television, or certainly not in person.
yeah,
So these traumas need to be handled at the physical level because, like I said, you can't just say, I'm safe. Oh, good. You know, when I was first evolving into my PTSD and realizing what it was and being diagnosed, I had no idea what was going on, even though, you know, I was a yoga therapist and an athlete and I knew about the mind body connection. It's really hard to be aware of that hypervigilance until you work with it. And for me, it was with a trauma therapist who was outstanding. I learned how to reassociate. For example, I went on a date a few years after my husband died. I know it wasn't recent though. I'm in a pause right now. Um, and the guy that I went on this date with showed up late and he was really upset that he was late. I didn't care. You know, I'm sitting in a coffee shop. I'm relaxed. I'm not in any type of threat, right? I love sitting in the coffee shop and it wasn't crowded like you were mentioning before. And he walks up and he's like, I'm so sorry I'm late. And he does this. For those of you who aren't watching, it's the gun to the head hand motion. Well, my husband died by gun violence. And that immediately sent me into a trauma response. I didn't care that he was late, but that gesture. So now, if I see that gesture, it does not trigger my trauma response. I couldn't even have said it out loud at the time. I certainly couldn't have done it with my hand. But the way I got from that to this is by very methodical practice and daily practice when I can of meditation, mindful breathing, grounding exercises, and things that really reassure my nervous system that I'm not being chased by a bear. And that has to be a daily practice or a regular practice so that when I am faced with a challenge like that guy's hand gesture,
Mhm.
I have the tools to immediately use and stay embodied and stay in the present moment. And so it's management of the trauma by staying embodied, by reconnecting or staying connected with your physical body that allows you to live with trauma.
Well, then let's go into that because I'm here as a guinea pig and you're going to show me how to do that. And you keep on mentioning being chased by a bear. I don't know if that's subconscious or not because literally, you know, as my audience or our audience is learning, uh, I'm going to go on an Appalachian Trail through hike. I'm not quite sure when this episode specifically airs, whether I'm going to be on the trail or if this airs before that. I'm not quite sure, but that reality, that very statement is quite a reality. Above
Yeah.
not. So
Yeah,
with that
let's
being
just
the
say you're
case,
not going to run into any bears.
with that
Um,
being the case, if I am and I survive the attack and I'm dealing with that trauma, teach me something that I could use to bring my mind, body, soul back into the present.
okay. First of all, let's just put it out to the world, the universe, or God, or whatever your higher power that you believe in, that there will be no bears on your trail. And then I just want to explain why I use bear. So when you're studying trauma, a lot of times you'll hear the teacher say something about when we evolved our nervous systems, we were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. And the thing is, saber-toothed tigers and humans did not temporally exist together. So I changed it to bear because, you know, I have a little science nerd in me and I don't like, things that aren't factual, and that is not factual. So that's why I changed it to bear. But I think going forward, talking to you, I'm going to find a different thing a
No,
different analogy to use. So meanwhile, yeah, I'm sure in part of your training for your Appalachian Trail hike, which by the way, I'm so inspired and can't wait to hear about, to hear your updates and your experiences. When you find yourself heightened, uh, obviously, if you are facing an immediate danger, you manage that by fight or flight or bear spray or whatever it is I'm sure you've trained for. But then, right, when you get to that point where you are no longer under threat, you breathe, find your breath. If you can't find your breath, which, when I'm teaching trauma workshops or mindfulness workshops, a lot of times people don't understand about taking a deep breath, and breath doesn't work. It's usually the first line of defense, or the first line of calming is take a deep breath. That doesn't work for everyone. So I've developed this method that I call 3 points of contact. Everyone can focus on themselves and what their body is touching. I haven't met anyone that is not capable of that skill. So, for example, I'm standing in front of my computer right now. So I have a standing desk. My feet on the floor. That's my 1 point of contact. Point of contact 2, my fingers on my desk. So I put my hands down on my desk. I can feel my desk, my feet, and then my scarf around my neck. It could be if you wear hats or even any clothing, any fabric on your skin. You can close your eyes if you feel comfortable with that. Take a deep breath if you can, which I imagine is easier once you've done the practice. So now I'll turn it over to you, Keith. What are your 3 points of contact right now?
Okay, and I'm going to keep my eyes closed.
Mhm.
I don't have any shoes on my feet, and even though I'm sitting down, I have my feet on like a little stool that's under the desk, and so that kind of helps me leverage how I'm sitting.
Mhm.
So I do feel that directly on the bottom of my feet. Um, I typically have my hands at my side, or I'm playing with the cord, so my hands could easily be on the cord itself when I'm having a conversation like this. But at the very least, when I'm working on the computer, on the keyboard, or the desk itself, so that's easy to assimilate. And then one more, um, my headphones. So having these conversations either on Zoom or uh, in studio, I can definitely feel the pressure of the headphones.
Mhm.
That's a very distinct pressure on my head. So, not that it's uncomfortable, but it's something that I'm very much aware of.
Yeah, and that's absolutely perfect. Perfect examples. And when I'm teaching this 3 points of contact, a lot of times I use, going into the practice, analogies of having your nervous system overwhelmed while driving in traffic. I had mentioned that a little bit earlier, how we did not evolve to move at that speed. So then you have somebody, jump in your lane in front of you, and you have to slam on your brakes. Your nervous system is now activated, right? So the 3 points of contact in the car, it comes up a lot for me. So foot on the pedal, butt in the seat, hands on the steering wheel.
Okay.
And it can be anything. And if you can't feel, you can use visuals. Obviously when you're driving you can't close your eyes, but you can say, you can look at something in front of you and just focus on that. It's anything that brings you into the present moment. Because if you're in the present moment, obviously not currently in a life threatening situation, then you have to react physically. But once you're not in a life threatening situation, that 3 points of contact, or any type of, the breath, like I mentioned, anything to bring you into the present moment and be mindfully there in this moment, totally present, your nervous system just goes, oh, okay, I'm okay.
In an earlier conversation I've had with a gentleman named Leland Holgate, actually, we saw his promo ad before our conversation. He does a lot of breath work, and breath work has become really important for me for many different reasons. Um, so, just real briefly before we have to end this conversation, can you talk a bit about the value of different breathwork techniques? Uh, and for our conversation, at the very least, to do that very thing that you've talked about to bring us back into the present moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think of where I can go in 1 minute. Basically, our breathing is the only autonomic thing, or autonomic response we can control. So, not going deep into neuroscience in 1 minute, it is something we control that is normally a self-controlled thing, right? We breathe without knowing about it. Thank goodness. If we had to pay attention to whether we were breathing or not, we'd be in big trouble. So when we come into control of our breath, it takes us into the calming, rest, digest, side of the nervous system, which is called the parasympathetic nervous system. And we are able to, when we're in that side of our nervous system, calm down or release our trauma response. And like I mentioned earlier, it's not always possible for people until they learn the practices. But once you really learn how to take a deep cleansing breath, grounding breath, whatever you want to call it, and there's hundreds of breath techniques out there. So believe me, you can find one that works for you. No matter how stressed out you think you are, I promise you can find a breathing technique that works for you. You can then find your calm, and it's very, very healthy to do so.
I like it. And what I have learned recently that's been very helpful is a 5.5 in, 5.5 out. So breathing in a big belly breath for 5.5 seconds, and then releasing it for 5 point. And it's a steady rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And what that has helped me to accomplish is this very I have trouble sleeping, and falling asleep is one of the things that continually challenges me. So what that has helped me do is create this space while I'm in bed, is to just be calm, and I'm not thinking about, at least I'm trying not to think about anything else. And she's, Ashley
Yeah.
is always with me. So she's right there. And I literally, we talked about points of contact earlier. I feel her. She's usually right up against either my leg or my side. And if she gets overly excited, she jumps on my chest. And so that doesn't always work. But
Touching a pet is definitely a nervous system calmer. It is.
And we need to go in, we could have another conversation with that by itself. That's really good. But
Just
the
sit
5.5
and
in,
pet your dog or cat.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. And I got, but we both got, and we got both, I got one of each. And so, but it's really helped, the breathing in, breathing out, and then focusing on breathing in and breathing out has helped me calm down. And so if there's veterans out there, we probably would need to do a whole show on that. So with what the time that we have left, about a minute and a half, really give some insights into those who have faced a trauma like yours. Somebody dies by suicide. Give them some hope, please, because sometimes, even like it's been 10 years, even though it's been 10 years, the trauma, the experience still sits with us, even though we spend day and day and day, week, month, year healing from it. What can somebody do immediately?
Well, the breathing that we talked about, of course, is number one, I think. And then anytime you can bring yourself into the present moment and calm your nervous system is one more time that you're not in fight and flight. And each time you do that, it builds on itself. So the more you practice, the more you realize that life isn't as terrifying as it maybe was yesterday before you started these practices. And you keep going, and then you start finding, if you practice mindfulness, you can mindfully attend to all the greatness in your life, because we do all have greatness in our life, and let the not so great parts of your life be less, so they're not ruling your day to day.
I appreciate that. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me in conversation. I want to thank everybody for watching. And as always, I will see you on the trail. Imagine a world where every veteran finds a reason to keep going. That's the vision behind the Trail to Transformation Foundation. Help us make it real. Donate through the GoFundMe link. And as always, I'll see you on the trail.